Good afternoon from Barcelona, Spain, where IAFOR is holding our annual conference on education, arts, media and culture. I'm standing here with a keynote speaker who presented this morning. Can you briefly introduce yourself and tell us what it is that you do?
Yes, my name is Raúl Fortes-Guerrero. I live in Valencia, Spain, and I teach Japanese language and culture at my home university, which is the University of Valencia. I have given lectures and published articles on various topics, but my two fields of specialization are, on the one hand, the influence of Japanese performing arts in Japanese cinema, and on the other hand, the cinema of Hayao Miyazaki.
Can you tell us a little bit about what you presented?
The topic was intertextuality and transculturality in the cinema of Hayao Miyazaki. I think these topics are two hallmarks in his work, and I chosen them also because I think they are intimately related to this conference on education. The cinema of Hayao Miyazaki can be regarded as an educative project in many points, blending elements belonging to different cultures, which is transculturality. It's important because it conveys a message. It is the message that we all are part of this world, and so we live in a global world. In the same way that Miyazaki blends these elements, we mingle always here in this world. This topic has many implications, important implications, and I wanted to talk about them.
So what you mentioned, and this is one of IAFOR's 4 key thematics, is global citizenship and global citizenship education. So how do we act as a global community? How do we respect each other? How do cultures come together despite their differences? And you're saying that if someone watches Hayao Miyazaki, they can understand and they can implement this. They can become respectful towards diversity and inclusion. How can we use that? Can we use these films in classrooms?
First of all, I would like to say that anime has reached everywhere. So this is very important because whatever you do in anime is going to be seen by many people, and especially by many young people. So it's important to convey some messages addressed to pacifism, to peace, or to these topics. On the contrary, if you spread a different message, that message will always reach people. So it's important what you're going to talk about. I think his work is important for many aspects. One of them, I think I mentioned this morning, that the fact that children, elder people and women become the main characters in his films gives voice to people who usually don't have a voice. So from this point of view, Miyazaki's films can be seen as a vehicle for justice, for redress, and for complaint too. So this is important because he gives voice to people out of, that usually they are out of, not out of history, but out of society. All characters, for example, in his films, always have a very important paper, a very important role. The fact that he pays attention to the backgrounds, which is something striking in anime, because usually in animation you pay attention just to the main characters, and you spend a lot of time, designing the main characters, but not the background, because the background is just the background in order to make the main character to move. The thing is, in Miyazaki, these backgrounds are also very important. So what's the message behind this? The message is everything, not just human beings, but everything in nature. Also flora, fauna, animals, plants are equally important.
In your presentation, you also mentioned that the East can coexist with the West in an imaginary world such as the one created by Miyazaki and a lot of other Japanese anime. So Japanese can think and imagine their own culture differently in connection to the European culture, and then Europeans can reimagine our own culture, European culture, through the eyes of the other. And you're saying this is successful in Miyazaki's animations because he creates an imaginary world. But can this happen because it's imaginary and not real?
The East and the West already coexist in this world. I mean, it's not necessary to go to an imaginary world or to a fantasy world like, for example, Miyazaki's films. The thing is, how many people go beyond the surface and try to understand, to deeply understand the other culture. So in the case of Miyazaki, he knows firsthand because he came to Europe in order to do sketches for his works. So he knows the European reality firsthand. So he has the right to do this. Well, a different question is what he does then in his films. I mean, there's a blend of elements, and finally, when you approach to his works, you realize that his, for example, the European image that appears in his films, the European city that appear in his films are nowhere. I mean, they have characteristics from different cities. In the case of European culture, of course, we are used to that kind of images because we live here. And for Japanese people, this is exotic for them, but exotism is also the gateway to knowledge. I mean, everybody starts from an exotic shock, and then you go beyond and you decide to deeply study something, okay? So the thing is, for them, Europe is like Japan for us, for example. I mean, before going to Japan, I also had an image in my mind of Japan, which was not the real Japan I found when I went there. So this is unavoidable. I mean, this kind of thing, these shocks when you arrive there and you discover that it's not exactly as you thought. And you cannot live this experience in your own city, in your own country, in your own world. You have to live this experience in another world. Usually it's the same for fairy tales. Usually the main characters of the tales live under a different personality, and they experience different things far from home. So far from home is to set means to set the film in Europe, which is far from home for Japanese people too. So this is also an explanation of the reason because he does this kind of things.
We actually just finished a session on the forum on responsible tourism because we are in Barcelona and we were discussing about mass tourism being an issue in Barcelona. Then how would you say all these tourism industries are capitalizing on a fantasy? They are selling, for example, Japan as this exotic place and are selling tickets and are going to touristy places in Japan, taking tourists there for 2 weeks, and they're selling this fairy tale. How dangerous is that?
I think, it can be dangerous in the sense that you can't remain just on surface, and you can probably you won't go beyond. You stay in this stage of exoticism. is the gateway to knowledge because you start from this stage, but then you have to go beyond. So if you go to Japan and all you do is to go to Tokyo, Kyoto, and just the main 2 or 3 cities, and you go to the places where everyone goes, and you do what everybody does, and you take the pictures, in the places where with the Kinkakuji or this. Probably you will be just on the surface, and well, you can see you have been in Japan, but you cannot say that you have experienced real Japan. That's just a part of Japan. I'm not going to say that that's not part of Japan. That's part of Japan, of course. But the thing is, Japan has many sides, as any other country, as any other culture. So in order to get the most of a culture, a country, you have to know all these sides, and you cannot stay just at one. It's the same for people. I mean, I like this person. You like that person because you all that you have seen just his good things. But how about his bad points, his bad things? Only when you know good and bad things, and still you like that person, you can really say that you like that person. This is the same for cultures and for countries too. So it's important in the case of tourism to go beyond.
Another thing that came up in our Kyoto conference actually on again media, arts and culture was the rise of Asian art. Right now it's everywhere, not only anime, Korean pop and even Thai hip-hop at the moment. Asian art is on the rise. However, a lot of these artworks have been accused of becoming more westernized as they become more popular. How can we ensure that Asian distinctiveness remains within Asian artwork and is not assimilated into what you call the Western cultural hegemony?
Of course, I think artists have freedom to do what they want to do. I mean, if I want to mix this or to blend this with this, it's okay. It's up to me because it's my work. Okay, but the thing is, yeah, you're right. Everything is like if we were losing our identity, and everything becomes the same because we live in a global world. So this implies good things and bad things too. And one of the bad things could be this one. Miyazaki blends in his films elements from different traditions, Western traditions, Eastern traditions. But that doesn't mean that he loses his Japaneseness. As for example, this Buddhist element that I mentioned before. This is something that you cannot find usually in other films, especially in Western films, because we tend to think always as dualism, a dualistic way, and this does not apply to Miyazaki. This explains why in his films you cannot find real enemies, because enemies finally become friends. Because it's a wonderful way of saying that human beings are not good, not evil. It depends on your actions. It depends on the things you do that you can become good or evil, but not because it's something related to your inner nature. I mean, this is a Buddhist idea, and Miyazaki applies this constantly in his films. So I find, for example, an example of Japaneseness in this point. So I wouldn't say that Miyazaki has lost his roots, his identity, just because he blends the East and the West. In fact, I think it's okay to do it. Because as I said before, it's a way of showing that we all are together and we all share this world. The problem is when you try to apply this multi-perspective without knowing really knowing the other culture. If you know the culture firsthand, is the case of Miyazaki, what's the problem? I think there's no problem in this case, but you have to be sure and to really know what you are doing. If you do that, and if you don't lose your roots, if you remain true to your roots, you won't lose your identity, and consequently, whatever you do, it will be fine.
Which brings me to the last question. Miyazaki has announced that the last film was his last film and he's not producing any films anymore. Do you think that his legacy in terms of being responsible in portraying the other in a right way, is that legacy being transmitted to the future generation, to the other producers of entertainment?
I think this characteristic of Miyazaki is shared also by other authors, by other artists, especially artists belonging to Ghibli, to Studio Ghibli, because Studio Ghibli has its own hallmarks too. So, of course, there are differences between Takahata, Miyazaki, Yonebayashi, or other authors. The thing is, I think all of them share the same conception about the world. They cannot forget that they have a responsibility too. The more famous you are, the more influence you have, the more responsibility you have too. That's my opinion.